The automatic doors hiss shut, the last customer leaves, and silence floods the store. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting long shadows down empty aisles. For most, Walmart after midnight is just another store closed for the night. But for overnight stockers, it can become something far darker. You won't believe the horrors that unfold in those aisles when the world outside is asleep. These aren't just retail nightmares. They're true accounts from employees who lived them, and some never saw Walmart the same way again. Sarah was a 29-year-old overnight stocker at a Walmart in a small Midwestern town. Her shifts usually started at 10 at night and ran until 6 in the morning. By then, most of the day shift employees had gone home, leaving the massive store eerily quiet. The only sounds were the hum of the refrigeration units in the grocery section, the buzz of fluorescent lights overhead, and the squeak of her cartwheels as she pushed boxes down the endless aisles. At first, she liked the silence. It was peaceful compared to the chaos of daytime crowds. But over time, she realized silence, in a place so big, didn't always feel comforting. Sometimes, it felt oppressive. One night, around 2 a.m., she was assigned to restock aisle 7, paper goods. She wheeled her cart over and started cutting open boxes of toilet paper and paper towels. It was monotonous work, but it kept her busy. She remembered humming quietly to herself when she heard something that made her stop. It was faint, almost blending with the buzz of the lights. A whisper. She froze, listening. For a second, she thought it was one of her coworkers. But then she heard it again. Clearer this time, a long, drawn-out word. Sarah. Her stomach sank. She peeked around the end of the aisle, expecting to see someone. But the row of shelves was empty, completely empty. Trying to shake it off, she went back to stacking. That's when a heavy pack of toilet paper slid off the shelf and landed at her feet. She hadn't touched that section yet. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. But everything else on the shelf was perfectly neat. She tried to ignore it, pushed her cart forward, and that's when she heard it again. The sound of wheels, squeaking, directly behind her. She spun around instantly. No one was there, just her empty aisle stretching in silence. Her chest tightened. She started walking faster, but the faint squeaking returned, this time echoing from deeper in the store. Like another cart was moving slowly across the tile. The problem was, she knew only 2 other employees were working that night, both stationed at the far end of the store in electronics. As she turned into the cleaning supplies aisle, she caught sight of something darting across the far end. A shadow, a clear silhouette of a person moving quickly. Her whole body tensed. She shouted, "Hello? Who's there?" But her voice only echoed back. Now fully on edge, she grabbed her walkie and called the others. They swore they hadn't left electronics all night. That's when she realized it might not be an employee at all. When she returned to aisle 7, she froze in place. Several packs of paper towels were pulled halfway off the shelf, balanced so that the slightest touch would send them falling. And in the middle of the aisle was her box cutter, the same one she'd left inside her cart. She said she couldn't shake the feeling that something had placed it there for her to find. Sarah finished that shift surrounded by coworkers, refusing to stock alone again. Within weeks, she transferred to the day shift. She swears the job itself didn't scare her, but aisle 7 did. The whispers, the shadow, the moving cart, and the cutter laid neatly on the floor. She avoids that aisle to this day, and every time she hears the faint squeak of a cartwheel, she says she's pulled right back into that Walmart at 2 in the morning. Mark had been working overnight stock at Walmart for almost 2 years. He was used to the silence, the hum of the lights, and the long hours of stacking shelves while the rest of the world slept. But one week in particular made him question if he ever wanted to step foot in that store again. It was just after midnight when he was working the home goods aisle, stacking pillows and bedding. The store was so quiet that he could hear the refrigeration units clicking on and off in the distance. That's when he heard it. Footsteps. Slow, heavy steps coming from the next aisle over. He stopped what he was doing and listened. The steps moved a little, then paused. He figured it was just one of his coworkers, but when he peeked around the corner, the aisle was empty. The sound stopped too. Trying to brush it off, Mark went back to stocking. But a few minutes later, he caught something out of the corner of his eye. At the far end of the aisle, just for a split second, he saw a figure step past the opening. A person. But when he hurried down to check, no one was there. By now, his nerves were on edge. He called out on the walkie, asking where the others were. Both answered from the electronics section all the way across the store. Mark decided to keep working, but the uneasy feeling only grew. Every so often, he'd hear faint movement behind him, like someone brushing against the shelves. Then came the part that still gives him chills. He was kneeling down, cutting open a box, when he felt it. The undeniable sensation of being watched. His skin prickled. Slowly, he turned his head toward the end of the aisle. Standing there, just beyond the glow of the fluorescent lights, was a shadow. Tall, still, and shaped like a person. Mark froze. He blinked, and the figure was gone. His heart pounded as he stood up, backing away, clutching the box cutter in his hand. He hurried into the main walkway, but the store was empty as far as he could see. Shaken, he decided to push his cart toward the front of the store. That's when he noticed something off. Several items he'd just finished stocking had been moved. A row of pillows stacked neatly, minutes before now, had one pulled out halfway, sticking at an angle as if someone had yanked it forward. He swore he hadn't touched it. The rest of that night was a blur. He stayed near the other 2 employees until his shift ended, refusing to work alone. Mark told himself it had to be his imagination, maybe exhaustion, maybe the tricks of light and sound in an empty building. But he admits, even now, he doesn't believe that. He says the way the figure stood, watching him in silence. It felt real, too real. And to this day, whenever he walks past the bedding section, he swears he can still feel those same eyes on him, hidden somewhere in the shadows of that massive, empty Walmart. The store was quiet, the kind of silence that almost hurts your ears. In the stillness, you could hear every little sound, the hum of freezers, the soft buzz of fluorescent lights, and the hollow echo of footsteps on tile. She was stocking shelves in the seasonal aisle where rows of boxed-up decorations towered over her like walls. It was past 3 in the morning, the hour where time itself feels strange, and she began to notice something off. The air around her felt heavy, charged. It wasn't just nerves or exhaustion. She swore it was like walking into a room where someone had been standing just seconds before. Then came the noise. Not a crash, not even something that could be explained by gravity. A low, steady tapping. Slow, deliberate, like fingernails drumming against cardboard. She stopped working and held her breath. The tapping stopped too. For a long minute, she stood perfectly still, listening. When she finally moved to the next aisle, she froze in her tracks. All along the bottom shelf, the box decorations had been turned, every single one facing the opposite direction. She hadn't touched them. Her first thought was that someone was messing with her, maybe a coworker pulling a prank. But when she checked her walkie, both of her teammates swore they hadn't left their sections. Trying to brush it off, she grabbed another box from her cart. That's when she noticed it. A handprint, pressed faintly into the dust on the top of the box. Long, thin fingers dragging down the side. Her chest tightened, but she kept working, convincing herself it had to be from shipping, until she realized something worse. The handprint wasn't dry. It looked damp. She dropped the box immediately and backed away. But when she turned toward the end of the aisle, her blood ran cold. Someone was standing there. Not a coworker, not anyone she recognized. Just a tall, shadowy figure, perfectly still, watching her from the far end. She blinked and it was gone. Panicked, she rushed to find her coworkers. But when they all returned together minutes later, the aisle was perfectly normal. The boxes were aligned, clean, untouched. No handprints, no figure, nothing out of place. She swore she hadn't imagined it. The fear was too real, the details too sharp. That night was her last shift working overnight. She never went back. And even now, years later, when she shops in that same Walmart, she refuses to walk alone down the seasonal aisle because she knows what she saw. And some things defy explanation. As the night shifts ended and the lights of morning crept in, one thing became clear. Walmart after midnight isn't just a store. It's a maze of shadows, echoes, and unanswered questions. From the whispers in aisle 7, to the shadows that seem to move on their own, to the objects that no one could explain. These stories remind us that some places never truly sleep. So the next time you find yourself walking through those long, empty aisles after dark, ask yourself, are you really alone? If you've ever worked the night shift or had your own terrifying experience in a place that should have been ordinary, share it in the comments below. And if tonight's stories kept you on edge, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell, because there are plenty more true horror stories to come. Until then, stay safe, and remember, not all nightmares wait until you're asleep.